what is the actual difference between a junior software developer and a senior software developer? I get this question frequently from juniors who really want to figure out how to become a senior, or how long does it take to become a senior? What's the actual path to become a senior developer? What's the quickest way to become a senior developer and whatnot? And to be fully honest, different organizations are just handing titles for whatever reasons, especially smaller teams and smaller agencies, especially less progressive companies where you can become a senior in just a matter of a year with the right attitude, just kind of standing out from the rest of the audience. This isn't really the case for larger organizations where they do have a pretty well predefined company hierarchy, but it's definitely the case in a smaller company. So Niels Bohr once said that an expert is a man who has made all of the possible mistakes that could be made in a very narrow field. Meaning that experts are really people, and I've already talked about experts and how flaky this word is, so don't quote me on that. But seniors and experienced people are the folks who have already gone through all of the use cases in a very narrow field. They've made all of the mistakes, they know what are the implications, what are the problems, what are the best practices, and what will happen when you make a mistake. And as you can imagine, this means that to become an expert, you have to go through the path that leads you to all of those mistakes. And as tricky as it may sound, it really means that you simply have to fail often, fail a lot, without, of course, compromising production software. But once you go through all that path, you can learn from your own mistakes and really figure out what are the best practices and the best ways to make it work. Ideally, you are going to go through this path before you even start a job, by working on pet projects, by reading lots of programming books and listening to podcasts, going to events, and just trying to reduce the number of failures. But you still need to go through all of those different use cases, meaning that you need to work on a large set of projects within an organization, understand the different niches, and a bunch of other things. So a difference in the practice, or how to compare kind of a junior or a senior, is a senior developer can solve almost every technical problem with little to no supervision. And all that software is going to be well documented, well tested, with inline comments and everything else. So you can easily assign a complex task, a small project, or even a mid-sized project to a senior developer, and you are going to expect that they will comply with this, they're going to follow the regulations. If there's a problem, they are going to indicate it early on, comment it well, document it, and everything else. Junior developers, on the other hand, can only solve limited types of problems with a smaller subset of alternative solutions. Meaning that if you give them a pattern, if you give them a framework and say you need to replicate it 10 times, it's definitely doable. If it's simple, if it's isolated, if it doesn't require too many dependencies, this is usually a junior developer's job. So think about you give, let's say, rebuild WordPress or build a blogging tool, and you give that to a junior developer on one hand and a senior developer. So the junior developer is probably going to say, if they know one programming language, one framework, they're going to say, yeah, I know Java, so I'm going to build it with, I don't know, JSF or Spring Framework or something else. I'm going to make it work, and this is going to use Oracle because that's what I use, and it's going to have different roles and yada yada. But then the senior software developer is going to say, wait, first, why do we need to do blogging too? We already have plenty of those. Usually it doesn't make a lot of sense. To make a decent blogging tool, you have to invest lots of time, resources, QA, it's expensive. So they're going to really look for a rationale. If it really makes sense, if it's proprietary, if it's a limited set, they're going to say, okay, if it handles tons of different unstructured data, we are going to use a NoSQL database like Mongo, CouchDB, whatever. Then we're going to do a set of simplified layers. If it connects to other JavaScript applications, we may as well build it on Node.js, or it's going to be with static pages, or a bunch of other different things, right? So you can definitely kind of wiggle through the choices and figure out what's the best for the business. And with that in mind, really the career in software engineering is defined by the depth of knowledge and the breadth of experience. So you have the depth of knowledge, you really need to understand a lot about the different field, and then you have the breadth of experience, like dealing with different types of problems with your knowledge and just applying your knowledge stack into different sorts of use cases. So that's pretty much how it goes in a nutshell. So junior developers, again, they are usually familiar with the lower subset of paradigms, use cases, problems, and they don't yet know how to apply new paradigms here. And most of them, if they have a problem, they're going to get stuck, or they're going to ask a senior, or they're going to read something on forums, which is not necessarily quite helpful. Pretty much you have to go through all that experience yourself and just get comfortable understanding what are the pros and cons of different tools, paradigms, design patterns, solutions, strategies, frameworks, and be able to analyze and understand what are the implications of using each and every one of those in different use cases. Because there's no right tool for every job. There are different tools for a reason. They serve different purposes for different audiences, for different types of problems. Sometimes, let's say performance may be an indicator, traffic could be, user base could be a bunch of other things, for security, adaptiveness, number of people available in the organization who can build something, other available tools online, what are the pros, what are the cons, what are the business implications of a specific case. And senior developers simply have loads of experience to be able to comfortably make those assumptions and make actual strategic consulting in order to again make the right decision at the end of the day. So that's more or less the difference between junior and senior developers. One other note that I'd like to make is that sometimes senior developers in an organization could be less experienced programmers who have spent plenty of time within the organization, because seniority in software engineering, for the most part, in most companies, is related to the programming skills you've got. Programming knowledge, clean code, faster execution, refactoring, fewer regressions, no technical debt, and things like this. But in some organizations, there's the learning curve of a new developer, meaning that if the learning curve is really steep, then new developers or even senior developers may start as mid-levels because they can't grasp the knowledge of a business. And the business implications, the business context, the business structure, the business model may be very unique to a certain extent, leading to making it hard for a new person to join in. And at the same time, or on the opposing end, you also do have less experienced people who may be claimed as seniors simply because they may not be as strong on a technical standpoint, but they may make the right decisions depending on context. They may say, well, I only know, just as a very rough example, I only know 2 or 3 technologies, 2 or 3 frameworks, whatever it is, but I know that in this case we need to do this because it's a very complicated case. We've already worked with those clients 3 times over the past 5 years. We know that they are very specific here. This is going to help us do this. This is going to improve our efficiency here. We already have internal systems that do this and whatnot. This is also the reason why CTOs are not necessarily the best developers in a company. And quite the opposite actually. In plenty of companies, CTOs are probably kind of mid-level skill set or so technically, or at least above average. But they simply have the ability to represent the entire information technology infrastructure, how it tailors to the clients, what do clients need, business requirements, business expectations, being able to pick the right solution depending on time frames and budget and resources, and other things that senior software engineers also have to understand for the most part. And the more they understand them, the more possible it is for them to step up the ladder even further. So that's about junior and software engineers. Again, there are different concepts and different ways to represent each one of them. And companies may vary because they have different layers and different forms of assessments. But if you're a junior engineer who wants to really become more senior, practice makes perfect, and also understanding business requirements, understanding how important it is to produce clean code, continuous learning is really crucial even for seniors, and just becoming better and better with every single project completed.